Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's daily brief. Is this public? Oh, maybe we're doing another public show here today. Yeah, what the hell? Oh, yeah, we're already going. Who cares? Yeah, so anybody who we got a special treat for you. What the hell? It's the middle of the summer. What am I supposed to say here? Welcome back to the Brian Frivolity. Woohoo! Happy TGIM. Unfortunately, can't really comment on this. I don't know what the hell's going on here. So can't really talk about any of this platform stuff here today because I really just don't know what's going on. So we're going to move away from that relatively quickly here. Yeah, maybe I'll throw the newsletter image back up on there. The day today, Monday, TGIM. Of course, Mondays are always interesting days in the markets these days, especially following the holiday weekend. But we are now officially into Q3 2025, second half of the year, I suppose. And actually, I think we'll be coming into second quarter earnings season here relatively soon, which will probably change sort of the tone of conversation. Although, based on the past 6 months of what we've seen, my hunch is tacos are going to be tacos for the next 4 years, well, three and a half years. I am actually starting to hear a lot of chatter down in the States about how tacos have basically guaranteed the Democrats are going to come storming into power in a year and a half in the US Congress. And then you might find that we have like 2 years of basically impeachment constantly. Who knows? It's going to be a mess. There's no doubt about it. I'd also say too, though, hearing some very interesting rumblings coming out of the US. Dangerous. Clearly, the status quo of how the system has worked basically since the end of the Cold War, that's coming to an end very quickly. Americans may be going into more of an isolationist mentality. Could be. American experience, a big hallmark of that is every once in a while they tell the world to fuck off and they just turtle. Anyway, impossible to predict how this is going to go. And we often say you just simply can't write better fiction than reality. So whatever does happen, we'll just sit here and go, oh, imagine that. What I do find interesting, and you probably heard me say this at least a half a dozen times. As technicians, we often see this sort of, well, this is what probably ought to happen based on history and all that kind of fun stuff. And then to actually see the fundamentals fall into place to justify what we see happening, and to justify the actual price action that we expect, it's like, wow, son of a gun. So I do think that to a certain degree, what Mr. Trump and Mr. Basant sort of have planned is actually going to, ironically enough, it will, do things like create a rising interest rate environment for the next probably 20, 30 years. It's going to take a long time to get over this. Also, too, sort of like short-term shocks. When I did up some chart analysis of some of the bonds around the world, like the Chinese bonds, man, interest rates could go absolutely through the roof here. And if anything, that's the absolute one thing that all of these people that have euchred themselves into just insanely massive mortgage debt. And in this country, all those mortgages renew every 5 years. They don't have any choice. This has just got the absolute potion for disaster. And ironically enough, of course, 2007 was the disaster down in the States. That was basically 7 years after its cycle peak. So here we are, 2025, 7 years after China does cycle peak. And you can literally see the writing on the walls. It's a shame because, as I was saying yesterday, man, I was barking at the top of my lungs for people not to get sucked into the trap, and everybody in this country got sucked into the trap. And now it's just like day after day after day listening to they have something like 5 years of supply of condominiums in Toronto that they have no idea how on earth they're going to try and sell. And sadly, what's going to end up happening, I think, is the oligarchs are going to convince the government to open up the floodgates and let anybody and their brother into the country to try and fill all those vacant condos. And it's like the oligarchs are going to get what they want. China's population is probably going to be like north of 50 million here in the next decade. And the collective standard of living and everybody is going to collapse. It'd be interesting to see whether the pension system survives much longer. I got 5 years until I can actually start claiming my pension. And I'd be willing to bet between now and 5 years, they're going to jack that age out another like 10 years before you can start collecting. Anyway, wonderful times we're living in. Specifically today, I don't know. I'm not really seeing too much dramatic. What I am seeing is kind of like a hangover from the weekend. Econ's coming out today, actually a minor number, like a 1-star number here, Fed balance sheet. And that's later on. That's even after the market close. Taco, of course, barking this, barking that. I'm sure he's probably feeling pretty, confident and self-assured after he rammed through his tax package and all of that. But at the same time, too, what I was worried about, and I think that the whole world will become collectively worried about this, is what is the sort of short-term implications of this legislation to things like government balance sheets. The deficits that Taco is basically going to put into place here are going to be historic. They're going to be staggering. They are basically part of the 1%'s great reset plan. Add a zero onto the end of all your prices, whether you like it or not. What I'd be curious to see, and what I'm hearing, is the Taco is actually seriously thinking about getting into yield curve control through the treasury versus what we saw there 10, 15 years ago, where it was yield curve control through the central banksters. I think that the quantitative easing, all that, Ben Bernanke, I think they had to do that because they had to take the bad bonds off the Chinese's books, or the Chinese were just going to dump the bonds into the marketplace and basically bankrupt the United States. And the US government basically at that point was technically bankrupt. They didn't have any money to buy those bonds back, so they had to rely on the central crooksters. And really, the central crooksters, they didn't want to do that. They had absolutely no interest whatsoever in doing that, but they didn't have any choice. It was either that or bye bye USA. And the central crooksters, I think they kind of like having the American taxpayer as the hegemony proxy in this world. They're pretty compliant, they're pretty malleable. And they don't seem to have a problem with this whole kick the can down the road and just keep adding to the national debt and the basically financial slavery of their citizens. And make no mistake about it, nobody else is in any better position in this world. I would actually make the argument that, relatively speaking, the United States of America, its shit stinks the least. It's still pretty stinky, but it's nowhere near as bad as like China does, for example. Oh boy, this situation's a train wreck. And we were joking this morning, and of course, you all know this, but Chris was reminding me he saw an article on Chinese debt, and it's almost laughable how absolutely insane the Chinese debt has gotten now. And frankly speaking, I think the Chinese saw what the Americans did in 2007, and they said, well, if you can do that to us, we can do it right back to you. And the interesting thing is, there is no central sort of banking authority to bail out the Chinese government. When push comes to shove and there is a margin call on China, that'd be really interesting to see how this all plays out. My hunch is it dissolves into civil war. And China goes back to being, military dictatorship, bloodshed, no human rights, an absolute disaster society. That's what it was for a very, very long period of time. And I don't see any reason why I wouldn't go back to that. But anyway, that's sort of more rhetoric than anything else. And I do think, we all know January barometers, all that kind of talk. We know something's going to hit the fan here this fall. And ironically enough, I don't think it's actually going to be within the United States of America. Um, it was interesting how the U.S. Defense Department was completely bypassed through that whole Doge nonsense. And I think the generals are very happy and very content in their positions. And they have all their slush funds, kickbacks, all that shit still going on. And as I said, the American taxpayer is more than happy. Just kick the can down the road kind of stuff. And we'll just keep on this Fakasi. And it almost seems to me like the American public has bought the great reset, ram it down your throat. Prices are 10x what they used to be. And nobody's saying boo. And actually, I had made reference in the video yesterday. And I think it's definitely worth all of you watching. In fact, actually, all three of these, like a triumvirate of videos. Considering today is kind of a quiet day, I really think it's in all of your best interest to watch these videos. Isn't that interesting? Oh, that was weird. Yeah, this guy. Well, it's interesting how Twitter fucked him. Anyway, I thought he's very, very smart. Dowd. Gunlack, everybody knows him. He's a bit of a nut job, but I think he's pretty damn smart. And Paul Tudor Jones, I had made reference to this interview yesterday. And he was basically, and this is where I'm sort of getting my thinking that, this is just more kick the can down the road. Not on my watch, all that kind of stuff. Did see a really interesting piece on what Besant actually has planned here. And it's a bit scary because, of course, you all know, I don't know where I have that image, but you all know, actually, I think I have it in that spreadsheet. You all know, of course, what we're supposed to expect inflation wise. And I think what's going to happen here is Trump of course wants here's our 1940s inflation picture just to remind you of what the hell we got coming ahead of us here. And this is sort of the technicians, we kind of know what the hell is going to happen, but we just don't know why. And inflation's relatively well behaved here. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. But you can see as of basically the middle of the summer, basically 1 year from now, oh, fuck me, all hell's going to break loose for a good couple years here. And what's fascinating about this is it's incredible how this aligns so perfectly with what Taco's got planned. Because in essence, he's firing Powell basically like right here. And, firing or Mr. Powell just won't be reappointed, regardless of whether you like Jerry or not. I think on balance, he's done a relatively okay job. But, and there's even talk, believe it or not, of making Mr. Besant the Fed chair and the US Secretary of Treasury at the same time, holding the same job at the same time. And the historical, it's not unprecedented. The Americans did the exact same thing back in the 40s and the 50s. Oh, what a surprise. Same part of the fucking cycle. And of course, the plan here now appears to be that you've all heard this before, monetizing the debt. Trump wants those, and I mean, this is what's scary about like totalitarian dictatorships, and we don't will work in committee where you just have Joe Schlup wants this, so this is what's going to happen. And who knows whether this is actually a good policy or not. I guess only time will tell. But basically, Trump has said, I want that 10-year treasury down. So the question is a yield. How on earth do you get the 10-year treasury to come down in price? That's this conversation. And you can even see the knee-jerk reaction from the market here is actually, and this is what I think is supposed to happen when you go and completely gut the U.S. Treasury, basically making these tax cuts that were jammed through 4 years ago permanent, and basically guaranteeing deficits in the trillions. These are deficits. And what's fascinating, I was listening to the other day, this Paul Tudor Jones interview, where he said that actually, for the longest time, it was doctrine that you were not allowed to breach 3% debt budget deficits. Why 3%? Well, because, and interestingly enough, whether it be inflation or whether it be natural growth, the economy, when it's doing well, it usually spits out about 3% growth. And you could even just say these inflation numbers, to all intents and purposes, they're in that 3% area. So that's, I mean, whether it be the economy itself grows, and this probably isn't the best thing to show you, but just thinking that 3%, that was, and for the longest time, why did we live in such a low inflationary environment? Longest time, and in fact, actually, the creation of the euro, one of the requirements of the Maastricht Treaty, if you remember that, and of course, all of you remember the Maastricht Treaty by heart, right? One of the requirements was that if you wanted to join the euro, you had to get your budget deficit lower than 3%. 3% was the magic threshold. And in fact, countries that started to cheat and break that 3%, they started to call them the pigs nations, right? Portugal, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. And then you could substitute Italy and Ireland at your leisure. And as a result of that very strict adherence to 3% budget deficit, and if your economy grows at 3%, well, I mean, technically it's a zero-sum game. And then it was interesting listening to Paul Tudor Jones. He was saying, well, then this stupid taco guy comes along and he normalizes 4% budget deficits. Now, maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. Of course, Taco is going to sit there and blame the sickness. Well, I had no choice. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think everything he's done has been perfectly on his plan. And in a weird sort of way, I actually think he has a bit of a vengeful, I don't know what the word is, but he has like an agenda that he literally wants to wreak revenge on sort of the state system of the United States government. I think he has a lot of bitterness and anger towards the way that the state has been run over the past probably 40, 50 years. But anyway, the point being that, Paul Tudor Jones there said, and frankly, I agree with him, Now, Mr. Trump is quote unquote normalizing 6% budget deficits. What? So, quite literally, you have economics 101 and what's sound economic policy and, what banks would ideally like to see and all that kind of stuff. And he's come along and he's just basically breaking the rule, like literally doubling that number. Now, what's that going to do to inflation? If we know that in low budget deficit years, and frankly speaking, governments are way, way more power than all of us in the public put together. And most of this inflation problem that we have these days is just purely a function of these governments spending money they don't have. And now, like I said, Mr. Trump's come along here and just basically said, hey, it's no problem. We can run 6% budget deficit. And if you don't like it, suck my dick. I don't think that this is sustainable over time, but basically it is going to guarantee that interest rate cycle now, to all intents and purposes, we have 30 years of rising interest rates now. I would say 40 with the 80-year cycle, but we're already about 7 or 8 years into this cycle now so far. So probably about 30, 35 years of rising interest rates ahead of us.
Piggybacking off of that taco comment, I think you just said something about tariffs. So check your ES shorts, FYI, if you're still in them.
All right. So, and also too, I suppose, well, I'm not even quite sure. I know we had a whole bunch of those tariff deadlines were pushed back when the market balked there a while ago to the beginning of July here. And I'm sure the market's not overly happy about that coming back into the market's crosshairs. Can you paraphrase what he's saying? Are you listening to him? Is anybody paying attention? I mean, I suppose we could pull up that Financial Juice. They probably give you a summary of what the hell he's saying.
Yeah, pretty much he said something on Japan, but you could probably see that when you bring it up.
And stocks fell and the dollar rose at the start of the potentially volatile week as U.S. trading partners scrambled to reach agreements with Trump administration before Wednesday's deadline. Okay, so they still got probably 48 hours to screw around here. If Japan raises tariffs, they will be added to 25% levy. So Trump's still being a dick to everybody. US dollar seems to be enjoying a nice rally. In fact, ironically enough, got off a day trade here this morning. I wanted to get short ES because of the 15-minute opening range fail. Are they bringing the market back here? Still, I had a runner on that was at scratch, but I don't know what's happened to it. Let's see. Survey says, oh, wow, well, it's still working. So you can see Taco's trying to backtrack and clean them all up. You can see how long it took me to fucking get in this goddamn short to actually get it working. It was a pain in the ass. I think I got stopped out at scratch 3 or 4 times. Anyway, did get one little cute little short off, took 2 off at 2 to 1. And then just riding the runner here. And these are micros, so it's not really a hell of a lot of money. Anyway, maybe this big W here now translates into the market rallying back, and I'll have the runner stopped at scratch. But anyway, so Taco here is trying to I guess rectify the situation. We'll see. I suppose I've got all of these highs now. This cute little double top, actually triple top, defending my short here. So we'll see. And really, I don't even want to tinker that. If I get stopped at scratch, so be it. Anyway, and I was probably just rambling there about, but I think this is economically important. In that, as I had started off the conversation with you all today, we know that interest rates are going to now rise for 30, 40 years. Now, how the fuck does that happen? We also know too that according to our historical records, we're going to get a massive push of short-term inflation, well, of inflation into our society. And how's that going to happen? Well, it turns out the Besant, and I'll try and summarize this without going off on my silly tangents. Um, Besant is and like he's literally going to be the Fed chair and the U.S. Secretary of Treasury at the same time. Talk about a complete monopoly of power. That's crazy. This is obviously going to lead to a massive uncertainty around the U.S. dollar and U.S. policy. But if I understand correctly, they want to bring those treasury yields down. And oh, by the way, they're going the wrong direction right now. Through all that rant I had on the U.S. Treasury ETF, and it's sitting right at its lows. So there ain't no buy signal here now. That's for damn sure. But I think it actually aligns nicely with our forecast in that I don't think that you should expect a big change here through 25. In fact, as long as JP's at the helm, I think it's business as usual, and I don't think the Fed's going to lower rates. But everybody and their brother in the marketplace has now basically said the day that JP is fired and Taco puts some new person in charge, they're going to drop short-term interest rates like a fucking bomb. And the plan, if I understand correctly here, is the US government, the US Treasury, is going to literally stop issuing 30-year bonds. They're just not going to issue them anymore. Why? Because Trump wants the price of these long bonds up. And how do you get the price of an asset to go up? It's either one of two things. Either you fuck around with demand, you can always incentivize the public to go and buy more. That'll push prices up. God, you see the way that goddamn FOMO in crypto acts and the way prices go up just on somebody sneezing. Or you can manipulate supply. We're just not going to give the market any more supply. And you often hear about guys like Hendry and, all of those guys who talk about Chris's girlfriend, DiMartino Booth, the idea that the global world, because, are you going to buy? I saw somebody in the lounge today posted a video about Vladimir Putin saying it is now time for the BRICS to create their currency. And no offense, but when I watched that, I just laughed. It's such a fucking comical joke. And if anything, I think Mr. Putin actually thinks that he's far more powerful and far more influential than he actually really is. But we'll see how that plays out. And now Putin's actually gone and pissed off Trump. And you saw what Trump did to Iran. We could very easily tip over here into World War III, just like that. So be forewarned, everyone. But anyway, I thought it was funny. Somebody said, oh, yeah, this is the time for the BRICS. What I think's going to happen here, and this is my humble opinion, is and actually, I even had this same conversation about shitcoins yesterday with the public. Does it make sense to you that the US dollar, to all intents and purposes, has actually been in a bull market since, and I don't know why TradingView does this. Look how when I move my screen around, this stupid quote box thing jumps up now and I can't move the screen around. I don't know if it's my computer or what the fuck's going on here. It's total pissed off. Anyway, there's our buddy. There's Chris's girlfriend. No. Anyway, I'll remember this picture. If anything, I think the sickness and all of that, I think I got to include that picture in my book when I write my book. That is the absolute perfect analogy of this fucked up world we're in right now. Cats and dogs living together. But anyway, And actually, Dowd actually made reference to this. I really think all three of those videos I think should be required watching after the Beamish finally quits barking here. These three videos, between the three of them, you get very well educated on how the world really works. But the problem that I have with this, especially Gunluck, but he's like an uber gold bull anyway. But the problem that I have with this is, and Mr. Dowd made reference to this, is to all intents and purposes, actually, why can't I move this around now? So, like, I'll try and move this over, and then all of a sudden it does this. Fuck. Anyway, US dollars actually bottomed at 70. Oh boy, sure hope we don't have to go all the way down there. Back in 2008. So you could actually make the argument that the US dollar has actually been in, what is it? It's 25, almost a 20-year bull market now. So, everybody is calling the end of the US dollar. Maybe what you should be really thinking, and this is kind of an ugly chart. Maybe I'll see if I can just do a new one. The problem is I just love just chit-chatting with you guys. And 2 hours goes by so freaking quickly. But I think it's important for us to put into context. God, what is this? This is the ES. That, yeah, I mean, the US dollar is looking a little bit heavy here. I ain't gonna sugarcoat that, but there's the bottom. And actually, what I found interesting was Dowd was saying that, I have to remain a bull on the US dollar until that level right there is taken out, right? That low there. Higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. So the question really here is, I mean, this is clearly an M. Don't get me wrong. It's staring us in the face. But is that within the context of a rising market? I kind of think it is. And something that jumped out at me here is, the world is turning absolutely insanely US dollar bearish. And of course, it's also kind of it's a feel good trade, I think, especially politically, because I think the feel good trade is just to simply hate Taco because he's such a dick. So it doesn't surprise me that around the world, the feel good trade is to shit on Trump and to shit on the United States of America. I might make the argument that Taco is actually doing a lot of economic policy that's actually going to make the US very, very strong. Of course, he's an asshole when he goes about doing it, but that's par for the course for him. And I personally think, call me crazy, I don't know, I'm a bit of a nut job anyway. But I actually think, and I don't think actually we use that low. I think we have to use that low. I think that they're actually carving out a Gartley pattern here. And if you know Gartley's, then actually you know that this can be an extremely powerful pattern here. And considering the amount of negativity surrounding Trump right now, and this sort of communal hatred for the United States of America right now, and specifically around Trump, I wonder whether maybe this is setting a huge trap. I mean, you could make the argument that there is your primary trend line, and you often see me do this. Actually, Trump's coin itself is actually a perfect analogy of this because I've been showing you guys this for a while. And ironically enough, it's done basically what it's supposed to do. Question is, do I have this chart on here? I don't think I do. Crypto. Oh, okay, maybe we can use this. Right. So I see a lot of similarities between, shit coins and stuff and what the pattern is on the US dollar. So You could actually argue that this is actually also too very much a Gartley. And when we get down into this 78.6 level, I mean, you heard me barking recently to the public. You probably heard me yesterday. Do we really want to be aggressively shorting here? Or is this maybe we're just, laser beam focused, waiting for any kind of buy signal because we're in really, really good trade location here and institutions buy down markets. So, with that same logic, is the public kind of getting set up here? I kind of think they are. Um, I of course I teach you these 17, 18 year cycles, and I'm a US dollar bull here. And not necessarily US dollar. I'm a hegemony bull. So whatever the fuck the world hegemony is right now, that's what I'm bullish of. So it just happens to be the US dollar. So but I'm kind of feeling like there's a trap being laid here. So, take it for whatever it's worth. Yes, there is an M here working now. And actually, I might even argue that what we should do is be hunting for that 1.618. And it's Julian's level. I got to hand it to the guy. He was sort of the one that added to this conversation over the past few years. And look at that. So, kind of like what Trump's coin is doing itself. I think it had to come down to that 88.6, 78.6, 88.6. So just missed that by a hair. But you can see how it's waffling around right down in this area. And I actually think that the US dollar is going to do the same thing. And yet you go over and look at the indicators and hey, if this is such a bear, where are all the sellers? Why is the volume just disappearing? Why is price momentum actually showing that the strength of this asset is actually much stronger than what the price itself would lead you to believe? Why is Willie flashing stupidly oversold messages? And you'd actually be dumb to be a seller here if this thing is such a piece of shit. And so, using the exact same argument, what I'm hearing on the world stage right now is it's very convenient, it's very fun, it's very easy, it's very politically correct to be a US dollar bear. But I think they're walking into a trap here. That's my hunch. That's my take. I don't think that this bottoms tomorrow. And in fact, because of our January barometer and what we're expecting out of the stock market, for the rest of the summer and also crypto. I think that there's going to be some serious fireworks. Don't get me wrong. This is going to be wild. And, I mean, you can see the face rip. Usually wave 2 to 3 is the strongest, most violent of the 5 leg pattern in the Elliott wave pattern here. And if this thing was the start, so that's 0 to 1 right there of the actual reality, and there's the 0 to 1 there. We should do a slight pullback here. And considering all the uncertainty around tariffs being kicked up again, and then, of course, the hangover of that legislation that was just passed down in the States, I can't understand why we're going to have a bit of a consolidation here. That makes sense to me. But get ready. When this 2 to 3 leg kicks in, the stock market's going to be going absolutely ape shit. I do think that it's going to be coming through earnings season here. And I think on balance, American companies, especially with what Mr. Trump has done here, I think American companies' profits are going to be pretty attractive. Look how that constantly is coming on. It drives me nuts. It's very difficult to move these charts around now. Anyway, so I think that final wave push lower. Also, too, we have the U.S. Fiscal year end coming in here. This move up, that would be risk on. And to all intents and purposes, this, I think, is that risk on. And I think what's going to happen here, kind of like what you see in our January barometer, how we make a weaker high here, which probably paints divergence. And then, of course, you see the cute little top, right? You could even argue trade location, indicator confirmation will be the divergence. Hell, if you're a fan of Elliott Wave, you could use Elliott Wave as your trade location tool. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a Foggenbaum level or extension levels up in here. And then, of course, the final reason, price structure, you can see the M there. I think there's going to be a hell of a trade that sets up there in late September, early October. But what's also interesting about that, of course, is that we have fiscal year end in the end of September and early October. And I think there's going to be a lot of shenanigans that Taco's going to do here with Basan to try and jimmy the books and make things, different just by doing some accounting tricks. And my hunch here is that what ends up happening on the US dollar as all those indexes go to new highs but create divergence, well, I think you're going to see the same thing on the US dollar. That yes, we do make lower lows, and I think it'll probably be actually sooner than that. But this will create the divergence, and if it all happens right around this 78.6, well, my friends, that is a textbook Gartley. So this is actually what I'm looking for here. Now, if the US dollar does continue working lower, like I said, that should be beneficial for stocks. And it should also be beneficial for your beloved crypto and Bitcoin. And it probably also do relatively well for gold. But does it make sense that coming into this orgy peak, the public's going to be like, I'm all in on Bitcoin at 150 grand. We're going to 1 million. Next stop 1 million. The US dollar's going off the board. And then also too, gold, maybe gold runs up to like 5 G's or something like that into that September, October event, but it's actually a trap. That's what I'm thinking here, folks. And then also too, great part about January barometer is we already have a little bit of a sneak, the guys in January already know something ugly is going to fucking hit us right between the schnoz or right in the schnoz between the eyes. This fall, something ugly is going to hit. So I don't know whether it took forever for me to get all that out. I hope you guys got some value out of that. In the near term, I do think that this US bond and the debt market around the world could be in a bit of trouble. And I do think that, interestingly enough, when stock prices go up, usually bond prices go down, right? Money's just being shifted out of the bond market and into the stock market. But at some point, especially if we start flirting with these lows down here, and keep in mind, we never did put in that sexy W I wanted to see on the other side of trend lines for me to feel like, yep, this is seriously a bottom. Right now, and this is why. And what I find is such a piss off about this is even if part of this W is underneath this trend line, then the whole damn W is pointless. The W has to be completely and utterly on the other side of that trend line. It's kind of a silly little thing, but study it yourself, right? I'm not here telling you how the universe works. I'm telling you my observations, and now what I would suggest you do is take this information, add it to your journals. In fact, actually, I had a note from somebody yesterday that said, Brian, you told me to journal, and I've done it for about a week or two, and I'm already finding I'm making improvements in my trading just because every fucking day I've got to ask myself, how am I feeling? And are my emotions going to be affecting how I'm acting in the market? Number two, what did I see? What actually happened? Oh, it turns out there was no W in the damn bonds. And after Taco goes and completely blows up the fucking treasury, the treasury market's collapsing now. Oh, what a surprise. And what did I learn? Well, maybe it's a good idea to wait for W's on other sides of trend lines before you get uber bullish. I don't know, maybe something along those lines. But anyway, To the person that sent me that message, you know who you are if you're listening. I'm very proud of you. That was a huge, big step you took with me. And the fact that you sent me a message back a week or two later saying I did what you asked me to do, Brian, you are heading in the right direction. So, and now you just got to keep on. And welcome to the rest of your life. 30, 40 years later, I'm still learning shit every fucking day. Excuse my French, but it's so frustrating. The fact that it never ends. We are all students of the market every damn day. You're learning new things. Anyway, and as soon as you start saying that oh, I'm done learning, I know everything, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Anyway, so the point that I wanted to make here was that if I understand correctly, the plan out of Basant is that once he gets instilled as the Fed governor, oh boy, they're gonna cut short-term interest rates dramatically, and they don't give a fuck about inflation. They don't give a fuck. What they care about is they want this bond to bottom. So they're literally going to be issuing only T-bills, only short-term interest rate products. And they're going to cut interest rates dramatically so they don't have to pay out much on those T-bill issuances. And they're going to let the long end just drift. And if there's no supply, then by definition, price is going to have to go up based on, of course, all these crazy, watch your Hugh Hendry comments about global demand for US Treasury. So, I mean, who else, at least the US taxpayer, there's a legal system there. And I don't know, Chris, how does it go for a typical American if they don't pay their taxes down in the States? Does it go well?
Have you ever heard of Wesley Snipes?
Yeah, I've heard about him. Oh, yeah, he got into a lot of trouble over that, didn't he?
Yeah, it didn't go well for him.
Yeah, and also too, I remember Bernie Mac, right? Didn't he? No, that's not the right guy. Who's the guy who hosts the Family Feud? His accountant wasn't paying his taxes and just pocketing the money himself, and he had something like
Uh, Steve Harvey?
Steve Harvey. That's right. He also got into a world of trouble with the tax man, eh?
Yep, yep.
But, there are plenty of places in the world, China, for example. Do you think any of the military junta pays his tax? Yeah, right. Do you think Vladimir Putin pays tax? Fuck you. Do you think half of those oligarchs pay tax over there? So, on the global stage, and I've said this repeatedly to you, there's nobody in the real world. You can't include China in the real world. That's a fucking joke. You can't include Russia in the real world. That's a joke. Maybe you could trust the Europeans with your money to actually honor debt obligations and pay interest and all that. People 20, 30 years ago trusted countries like Argentina. And Argentina one day said, fuck you, we're not paying any more debt. Hey, you don't like it? So fucking what? What are you going to do about it? And of course, the whole fucking country collapses and goes into utter destruction. So there's a reason why the United States of America is a hegemony, is the hegemony. It's the only system that you can actually trust if you're a net creditor in this world. So anyway, point of the matter here is if I understand the plan correctly, they're going to kick Powell out. They're going to instill somebody who's going to take short-term interest rates to nothing. And as a result, they're going to stop issuing these bonds that cost the American. Keep in mind, Americans have like $30 trillion in debt, and just an absolute staggering amount of it is coming due and needs to be refinanced. And at these rates, there's no fucking way the United States can even survive at these rates. So what's their plan? If I understand it correctly, and I know it's taken forever to explain this, but it completely explains why this image looks the way that it does. And nobody, of course, explains this shit. Nobody. So, if anything, I understand now why this happened, because they did the exact same thing in the late 1940s. Like I said, in that government, they actually had the Treasury Secretary and the Federal Reserve Chairman the same person. They completely manipulated the yield curve and they just issued short term debt, like T bills, 90-day T bills, 100-day. And that's how they refinanced the entire market. But it caused the long bond to rally and long interest rates started to come down. And that's what Trump wants. He wants that long bond to rally. So you can literally see how history is going to repeat itself. And we're going to do exactly the same thing that they did in the late 1940s and 1950s to deal with this debt problem. It was stunning. I know it took forever for me to walk through that. And I don't even know whether you guys, whether my explanation actually explained this correctly and clearly so you can understand. But my hunch here is that the world's shitting on the US right now. Ironically enough, that's actually business as usual. There's really nothing new going on there. Because keep in mind, theoretically, GOP presidents, and if you go back, Republican presidents, they represent, their constituents are not Joe Sixpack, which is so ironic because a huge part of Trump's voter base is Joe Sixpack. And we all know that Trump, of course, totally caters to the oligarchs. Sorry, I got off topic there. But to all intents and purposes, the Republican Party is very US dollar bearish. Historically, have do your own research. In fact, one could even argue the 1987 crash in the stock market was caused because James Baker came out in the middle of October of 1987. It was the weekend before the Monday crash. And he said that it would be the US dollar or the US government's policy not to defend the US dollar index in the marketplace. The stock market crashed because of lack of confidence. And then ultimately, the US dollar did bottom because everybody was scared shitless that capitalism was ending. So I think you could actually make an argument that you're going to see basically history repeat itself. Bessant is going to come out and say, and he even to a certain degree, a recent interview that I watched him, he didn't deny or refute the fact that he might actually be named the next U.S. Treasury Secretary and federal chief, FOMC or Fed chief chairman, which is interesting because the little girl interviewed at the very end, she said, but you actually didn't say no that you weren't going to have this happen. And he didn't say anything. He was just totally blank faced. So my hunch is that's the plan, that they're going to kick Jerry out and they're literally going to put Bessant in and he's going to have both jobs. I think in the short term, it's going to cause some serious chaos. But in the longer term, I think that it does make sense what they're doing. But the problem is you won't see the positive effects like through the Eisenhower administration. That's how long it took to actually see all of the effects that they put into place here to get beyond this. If you actually look into the 1950s, I don't know whether this will have it or not, though, but the whole inflation picture started to really quiet down in the 1950s. And of course, that's what we hear in the history textbooks of how wonderful the 1950s was. So that's like your 2030s. And of course, if we go back to our Benner cycle, we know that basically 1932 is the ultimate bottom of this cycle. And life should start getting better following that. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I think I probably just wasted an hour. I don't know whether you got any value out of that. I sure hope you did. But I'd be very careful here about getting too insanely bearish. of the US dollar index here, heading into the fall here. I'm kind of thinking that this is a bit of a trap. So, and to get Bitcoin to go absolutely insane to the upside, to get the stock market to insane to the upside, I think you still need to see a further weakening of this US dollar index here. So it makes sense to me why this is falling. And as I said before, Republican presidents are actually typically US dollar bears. So, under Taco, this is actually completely reasonable. I think people seeing the dramatic move here, I think that kind of caught people off guard. They really weren't expecting it to be this violent, this quick. But I suppose tacos are tacos. He also knows, I think, for certain that he has this 2-year window. And once we actually get to next November, his window of opportunity to do anything is over. So he wants to get everything possible done before that November election. So keep that in mind as well. So he's literally got a stopwatch running. And once we hit, probably my hunch is probably like next summer, which also happens to align nicely with our inflation deflation gauge, and when we're supposed to expect the pivot. My hunch is by next summer, Jerry will be kicked out. And I wouldn't be surprised heading into that election next November that you're going to find that the banksters, in reaction to what Trump has done here, kicking their, love child, Jerry, out of the position, I wouldn't be surprised if you actually hear of some sort of crazy ass crisis, maybe another sickness they manufacture, maybe another escalation in war. What is it there? There's 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? So famine, we might have famine, might have, well, I guess we've already had disease. We've had war, famine. What's the other one? Pestilence, drought. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what crisis they come up with. But clearly, you can see 1 year from now, as we're getting ready for that election, Trump's kicked out Jerry. He's got his guy in the FOMC now, lowering interest rates dramatically. You can see that it's like a perfect storm of this shit show that's about to happen. You can literally see piece by piece by piece everything falling into place. And the sad part about it, like I said, is if you listen to all 3 of these guys, they're all saying, "Oh fuck, this is going to be a pretty challenging few years ahead of us, folks." Oh goodness. Anyway, okay, enough of that nonsense. What the hell am I supposed to be talking about today? Like I said, originally off the top, there actually aren't really any econs out today, so nothing dramatic that we can really hang our hat on that's driving market. I personally think that this is just nothing more. What you're seeing in the market right now is nothing more than a hangover. I think that the anticipation of that legislation passing through was the buy the rumor. And now that it's been done, we're in the sell the news scenario. As well, too, of course, we've got the tariffs issue. It's interesting how Chris had mentioned that Taco here is going to be talking tariffs probably for the next week or so. Be interesting to see how violent the market's reaction is here. Natural disasters. Oh yeah, there was an absolutely horrific disaster down in Texas. Of course, they're probably going to try and blame climate change on all this. I don't know whether it's related or not. I mean, were there floods and natural disasters hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago? I think so. So, unfortunately, though, this really does play into the climate change narrative, and of course, injecting more fear into the public. And everybody should drive battery-powered cars. That will stop the floods. What? Anyway. There's not much I can comment on that. I mean, it was just an absolutely horrific story. If anything, it often brings into question religion, because it turns out that it was a Bible camp, and these girls that were at the camp, they were all like absolute over the top religious, and the surviving girls were sitting in their bus singing songs of praising God while dozens of their friends were all unalived by God. Very twisted. I mean, obviously, there's nothing I can say. It's just a horrible, horrible situation. Iran, and interestingly enough, actually, I don't think that this soap opera with Iran and Israel is any even remotely close to being finished. I think they've been warring with each other on and off for the past 1,500 years, 2,000, thousands of years. I can't see an ending today or with a taco bomb. And I'm also hearing too that after the dust is settled and they actually can go and assess, and it turns out that Taco's bombs didn't do nearly as much damage as Taco claimed they did. So I don't think that this soap opera is over by a long shot. It probably hit a bit of a boiling point there, a week ago, a month ago. Now maybe it probably needs to simmer down a little bit. But if I understand correctly, Iran's throwing their proxies at Israel. And so obviously it's not over, and there is no peace just yet. So nothing really to even. The sad part about it, of course, the whole market moved violently in through that event. Could we have another one of those here? Remember, I said, I don't know what the crisis is in September, October, but it could be any of these issues. And we're right back in the shit again, and nothing's changed. So just be forewarned. Um, so I don't even really think that there's anything here that I think is like, all right, new fundamentals. Let's see how it factors into the equation. I think it's actually just all business as usual. Just kind of bums you out, but anyway, it is what it is. Price action wise, as I had sort of said earlier, was and actually I've been having a lot of fun with the boys just tracking this opening range trade. Oh, interesting. That now looks like a nice Adam and Eve there, eh? So maybe we finally have a bottom coming in on the market. I didn't really have any of my RSI model setups. I suppose there was one there just as I was getting this video going with you guys here. Interesting little sell pattern that's set up there. That was off that triple top I was talking about. But you can see Willie Stupid, bit of a div there in price, not huge, but a little bit. And then, of course, we've got our multiple M's there in RSI, and boosh, down she goes. In fact, actually, the move on RSI through the 50 line, that was the big move. Wouldn't really have anything setting up here yet on the RSI model because Willie has to go stupid. So I'd probably be just sitting and waiting. And if anything, I really like this opening range philosophy. The guys at SMB or SBM Capital, if you ever are on YouTube, they pointed this setup that actually they trade on a regular basis. Just simply map out this is 5 minutes. So, this happened to be the very first 5 minute candle today. So lots of fuckery. But the first 15 minutes, just map out that range. And then just what if you get a 5 minute bar that close either above that range or below that range, go with that signal. So as you can see, and you take a screenshot of this, it's a pretty damn cool setup, I will say. If you are interested in being a day trader, prop trader, add this to your toolkit because I think this is pretty good stuff. So you can see we got the 5 minute candle to close here, took 7:10. And it's funny, when I was funded at Top Step a million years ago, in my interview with them, I said, one thing I learned a million years ago is never trust the first hour of trading. And John Hoagland, my old boss, and actually, I guess half of our guys in the day trading room, John's now their boss too, which is great. I love the fact that all these guys all passed their tryouts and are all basically making money for Johnny Hoagland on a daily basis. That always puts a big smile on my face. So anyway, point of the matter here is got your signal. I tried a couple times to try and get in on this short and it got stopped out once. Then, I had like little bearish bots. Okay, maybe this can get me in. Had moved stopped to scratch level, then stopped at scratch. It was driving me nuts, but I eventually did get this short on that worked. And of course, that's what this funny trade is. So as you can see, it took a few attempts. It got stopped at scratch like 2 or 3 times, drove me nuts. But anyway, there is the trade. I think the best thing to do for me is just leave this alone. If it gets stopped at scratch, so what? I have no idea where the hell this is going to go. But what I will say is we're at a very interesting level on the 4-hour chart, or even the daily charts for that matter. 1.618. You guys have heard me say repeatedly over the past, if you ever see this 1.618, and this is the alt ABCD. So the alt ABCD goes, I think it's A to B. There. And C to D. There. So that's 100%. And now, if you were botting this, you'd want to take profits there. I like the idea of like spoon feeding. And if I can do like multiple contracts, I might consider like selling maybe 2/3 of the position at that, and then just see whether you can milk out some more out of this trade, maybe work an order at 127, 1.618. These are alt ABCD. That's a valid alt ABCD PRZ, and that is also an alt ABCD PRZ. But hopefully what you also see, and whenever I see this, oh man, I swear I almost creamed my pants. If this range right here, we can draw extensions off of that range, right? And this is like what I teach you in the level 1 course with using fib extensions. And this, of course, is our parking garage. And if I ever see that the top of the parking garage and the 1.618 alt ABCD are the same level, this is like literally a no-brainer trade location. And so that's what I think is going on here right now. And it is interesting too, right? Because you could make the argument Basant, right? That guy's like a total shark trader. And so hopefully all of you look at this chart and you go, well, I can see exactly what's happening here. They're just going after the liquidity pool. How many stop loss orders do you think are just above these highs? And if they buy, what do these stop loss, if people are short and they have their stop loss orders working, what kind of order is this? I haven't even looked at the YouTube page all video. Let's see if there's anybody even over there. Grand total, 30 people? Well, that's not so bad. What kind of order is this? It is a something on stop order. Oh, you guys were sitting here asking me and talking to me. Maybe this is yesterday's video. I don't know. Big House, did you just say good night, Tesla? I remember we were looking at that last night, and actually, God, I could spend probably an hour talking about that. But let's just finish this. Can anybody help me? What is this order that's working right above these highs? Right? And if you can answer me this, again, the people that don't know this is definitely something I learned today. I don't know. Hey, I got Meg and Casey here. Well, they're tag teaming us here today. That's cool to see. Hi, guys and girls. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah, you guys should know the answer to this. Right? And God, I gotta find that cartoon. My favoriteest cartoon from the stock market ever. Fat cat sitting on the chair with the top hat. And he's got 2 dancing girls on either leg, and they're all drinking champagne and just having a great old time. And the caption down below is, and then we went after the stops. So the question is, what are all of these orders? They're short, right? Sell M's. That's what that Beamish guy says. That's right, Alex. Thank you. One person placated me. Where's Adam? Adam usually answers these things totally sharply. Anyway, they are buy orders. So that means if you bought down here and you placed your sell order and you're an institutional player, right? You're probably one this seller, you're buying. This seller is probably pretty damn big. So you need a lot of stop loss orders up here to get your sell order filled. And that's exactly what I think happened through here. Exactly. And now this is a PRZ, right? Alt A, B, C, D, 1.618. That equals trade location. I guess the question here is, and interesting, who can tell me what is this actually 3-bar pattern, but what's the 2 bars that are forming here? What do we call this? Oh, it's a 3-bar pattern. Cool part about this for like new people to trading, there's even a tool that even highlights this. That's a fractal. Be interesting to see on the lower time frames whether divergences started to build at this PRZ. So if you had divergence start to build here, then really all you're looking for is structure up here to actually go short. We drill down to the 4-hour chart and, oh, hello. I don't know. Does that look like any kind of letter of the alphabet that Beamish guy gets all excited about? What are we supposed to think if we start seeing the market smiling at us? Maybe that'll help you see it. I don't think it's an accident. What we're seeing here today, no accident whatsoever, in my opinion. And my hunch here is that this is probably all the liquidity pools down here that they're eventually going to go after. Because those are nice cheap fills. And also too, oh, what a surprise. Look, there's a gap on the chart right here. So if you were looking for a price objective, my hunch is probably right down in that level. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. There's a big old tail there to be eaten. And now that this M is actually confirmed, what kind of study can we start drawing to paint us some downside objectives? How about chaos? Oh, hello. So 1.618 takes us right back down into this trading range. I think that's reasonable. 2.618 takes us right back down to fill in the gap and right into that tail and those candle body lows for trade location. I don't think that's an accident at all. So hopefully you can see that actually what's happening here in the stock market today, I actually think is pretty cliche. They ran the tops. They ran it right into an incredible trade location. And oh, what a surprise. Here comes a big fat M. I don't think that's an accident. So the only question really here is, did I come to the trade too late? Because you can clearly see the top is up here. I mean, I suppose maybe even that doji right there defined sort of, I guess this high was slightly higher. So I guess it would be like that 3-bar fractal there. Difficult trade. Don't get me wrong. And as I said this morning, it was a bitch and a half to try and get this position on because I so wanted to get short because I absolutely love this opening range trade setup. Is there anybody here? Can you give me some feedback? Is there anybody here where you go, you know what? That's a pretty cool trade setup. I gotta both take a screenshot, maybe rewind the video and listen to Brian to how he explained how you do this. And then I got to try and get into the habit of trying to get in on the direction of whatever that range resolved. I don't know. Anybody get any value out of that? It's a really good lesson. But I might not be that good of a teacher. Anyone? Oh, Glass Insights, hugs and kisses. You're awesome. Stingbee. Oh, cool. Oh, awesome. Okay, good. So there was some value in that. And interestingly enough, I actually think the killer trade was this little hip right here, where we tried to sort of recapture this bottom of the megaphone, and then we fractaled out. And I love when signals come in, like through the 13 EMA, this 3-bar fractal, because that means when this thing fires, beep, if it actually trips up and fires the signal, not only do you have the price action itself defending your trade, your stop would be right above that high, but you also have the 13 EMA acting as insulation. So the market has to recapture that 13 EMA, this trend line and that high. Oh my God, that's an incredible trade setup. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this actually happened when the 1 minute chart actually gave you. Remember, I had said there just a moment ago, oh, wow, look, there was even a little entry. And I think that was that 1 minute. Anyway, this is kind of off topic. Sorry. That was right here. Yeah. So that was like literally right there. And that was the point where I was like, oh my God, this setup is like actually an RSI setup too. So that was right there. And if we look at the indicators, look how divergence. So market pushed higher here, but MACD did not go to new highs. Maybe let's zoom in a bit so you can see that. Oh, this silly thing drives you crazy. Look at that. I'm trying to move the screen out. Now it's got this stupid quote box fucking thing. Ah, drives you nuts. Okay, so that was right here. Yeah, so you can see little div. We push to new highs. Right there. It's just the smallest of one. You can see MACD did not make new highs. Whoops. Like that. Willie was officially stupid. Right there. And then look at the RSI top. So 1M and 2Ms. Me, well, I guess that didn't, it wasn't as clean because the break actually was here. So you had to have the gumption to like literally short that. And ironically enough, you know what? Actually, I was even explaining this pattern to you on the US dollar. What pattern? It's remarkable to see this stuff even off of like 1 minute charts, right? I think this is a 1 minute chart. What pattern is this? Boom, boom, boom. Think 61.8. Boom, boom. Think 78.6. It's pretty damn close. What pattern is that? Riddle me that, Batman. Anyone? And this is such a beautiful analogy of the universe as a fractal. It doesn't matter what time frame you work off of. Everything moves out sequentially. It's actually stunning. Oh, Jim and Liz love the info. Oh, that's good. Hope you're learning. Does the opening range setup also work in crypto market? I tried to map the 15-minute candle and it's kind of still on that range. Okay, placate me this, and then I'll jump to that question. Zachariah. Ooh, that's like a Bible name. Zachariah. Jebediah. Who can placate me, please? What pattern is that? And if you don't know, maybe get your ass into the level 3 program. Although you're running out of time. Anyone? Anyone? Where's Steven? Hey, very good, Casey. Oh, very good. Nobody over on YouTube has a clue what pattern that is. Oh, it's Megan. Ah, nice, Megan. I have to give credit. Good. Yeah, yeah, damn straight. Give credit where credit's due. No, it's not a bad. The key is, does this X to A to B hit 61.8? That's pretty damn close. 0.598. That's within 2 points. There you go. Thank you, Richard. Well, you're the only one who would placate me over there. And what a beautiful trade setup. Holy crap. And I used to trade with guys a million years ago that would like literally this was their religion, right? They would hit that 78.6 level, right? They'd map out their Gartley and they would hit this level. And in this case, the poor loser had to take what 1 point of heat. You have your stop up here, and then you take like 1 point of heat getting filled at your 78.6, and you look like a fucking trading god. I can absolutely guarantee you I am not that good of a trader. I used to work with guys. I remember one guy, his screen name was James Bond, and he used to like literally live by these setups. Anyway, if that tickles your fancy, I've just given you the secret sauce. What did I learn today? Maybe you learned how to be a 1 minute chart, a Gartley aficionado. I don't know. Anyway, so the point being that remember we had said off of the 5 minute chart, that was the confirmation of that signal. Where's our 5 minute? Here it was here. Right. Right there was our signal. And at this point, I'm like, how the fuck do I got to get short? I got to get short. I got to get short. I got short off of this, but I got stopped at scratch. Boo, hiss, boo. All right. And then I like got short here, but I think I got stopped at scratch on this counter trend move. And then I was finally able to get a short off in here. A little bit late, but if I was really on my game, I would be hitting that Gartley. But right now, in fact, actually, I wouldn't even be surprised if they just ran me out at scratch there and now they'll puke the market back out. I don't know whether I'm still in this or not. Well, let's see. Survey says, oh, I'm still in. Woohoo. Anyway, wasting time. Let's see if I can actually give you people some value here today. I hope you're getting something out of this. Where should we go? We talked bonds. Bonds do not look happy. And I think the bonds, this is the $64,000 question. And I think that this will be what derails the bull run later on this fall. There's nothing to be bullish about here on this bond right now. And my hunch is this is the hangover of the Taco Bill or whatever. Looking at leading indicators of the market, things like semiconductors, our semiconductor sector ETF. Would anybody say, oh yeah, that's good, a good idea to go and buy that? I don't think so. Is this head and shoulders pattern on here? No, it never did fire, so get rid of that. Do we have trade location? Might be interesting to see whether we are starting to get things like 1.13s up top here. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Thinking like actually, oh, interesting. So this is the same thing as the ES. So they took the market to new highs, ran all the stops, and we'll run the weak hands, all that kind of talk. And then they start to consolidate. So the fact that we're up against the old high, I think, Nebraska FU set up kind of trade. I think in the library we had one student of mine years ago, Sebastian. He loved that setup, so he was trading it a while. Then Craig in our day trading room, he trades this setup religiously every day. He's got it down to an art form. It's beautiful watching Craig in action. So I think I can understand the SFU setup here, the Nebraska fuck you setup, Craig's fuck you setup, whatever the hell you want to call it. I suppose the question ultimately here is, did we have divergence that developed up in here? And yep, big divergence, but divergence has not been confirmed yet. So for this to actually be saying, on these higher time frame charts, this thing is really starting to break down in earnest. I think we need to see some downside price action, which probably creates like a head and shoulders up top here. So we got a downside push back into this level, which pushes the MACD down and confirms this div. And then you can start going into stage 3, hunting actual price structure. And, if it's a head and shoulders and this push here confirms the divs, maybe you get a counter trend rally and it creates that head and shoulders pattern. And I don't think that this correction, in my humble opinion, is going to be too deep. Why? Well, this conversation. I think that, yes, we got to get through this whole tariff week. And my hunch is Taco does what tacos do. And at the end of this, it's just all fluff. Um, and I think that actually, once we actually start getting into companies actually reporting earnings numbers, I think you're going to find that the market all of a sudden mysteriously catches a bid. And remember, we're in the summer silly season. This is actually when the market should be kind of, they call it the summer doldrums. And if as long as the market can establish a trend, it probably is things like Tesla and Meta and Microsoft and Netflix and all that. In fact, I think I even heard Chris or somebody earlier saying Netflix reports in the next couple of days, and usually they set a pretty positive tone to the market and earnings with all the money that they're making. So this is the number one reason why I don't think that this correction is going to be too steep. I think this is just a hangover from what happened last week, and we got to get through the rest of this tariff talk this week. And my hunch is it probably just all resolves. It's more fluff and bluster and media shit. Makes for great TV, all that kind of, than actual anything of substance. That's just my opinion. So same sort of thing on the semiconductors and the general sort of health of this sector. The fact that we broke to new high, show me new high, and I'll show you a buy. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing continues to work higher. I will say though, when the day of reckoning comes, oh boy, this is going to be uglier than shit. You can see the holes in the charts here. These will have to be filled in at some point. And you can also see the divergence that's building in momentum. You can also see Willie is stupid. You know, keep in mind, September, October is only 2 or 3 months away. So do they push this out for another month or two with like double D's, triple D's, Willie stupid? And then we get like a wide, broad top, like something like this that takes like a month or so to develop, or even this one here. I could totally see that. So way too late to be a buyer. Probably still a bit early to be a shorter, if there is such a term. Nvidia going to be coming out with earnings, probably the leader in the space, booming higher. Sjord's ASML, AMAT, the parts manufacturers to the semiconductors, they still look relatively happy. Cotter's AMD continues to grind higher, although it does look a little toppy. Maybe there is going to be some question about their earnings. Who knows? I don't think there's really a setup to go either long or short, other than I'll say it looks like at this 4669, we put in an island top. So island tops usually are short-term patterns that are bearish, and the island's playing itself out now. And then my beloved old Intel, stick in the mud, just parked. It doesn't look like they have anything planned here right now. Bullish, Joby Gap, still valid, still working. That won't be negated until this thing comes all the way down to 2073. But as I've said here of late, with the stock market or the semiconductor stocks, I don't really see a major breakdown here right away. Maybe I could be mistaken. Oh, come on. I don't know how to get that to maximize. Nope. Yeah. There. But I certainly don't have any. Oh, fuck, that's a short. I don't think I'm there yet. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe Intel comes out with some shitty earnings and they knock it back down, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Nothing really yet now. Other stocks I'm keeping an eye on, my funny little mutual fund I was talking about yesterday. If there are any follow-up questions, feel free to ask. There's nothing really secretive about this. I certainly wouldn't do anything on this. Already, I have my risk-free trade, so it's just sitting there. Look at the gold stocks. Holy shit. Look at Barrick. What pattern is that, folks? And that also on Friday. Oh, this is a 4 hour chart. Well, let's go to an hour. Oh, there we go. Whoa, look at today's price action. F me. So that's very, very bullish of the gold. And also too, considering what we talked about with Basant and what the plan is, what I'm hearing in the marketplace, and this scares me immensely, is people are already assuming that JP is going to be fired. People are assuming that Trump's going to put in some sort of massively dovish Fed chair. I don't think that that's actually what's going to happen, but we'll see. Um, and people are assuming that they're going to take short-term interest rates in the States down dramatically. And people are assuming that that is going to be massively inflationary. So I did hear some people barking that, well, not barking, somebody posted in the lounge, Putin talking about BRICS. Fuck you. That's like a joke. I definitely think, and it kind of is weird, but I do think that I think we're actually going to be heading back to the gold standard. I think that's the only thing that will actually reestablish credibility in the marketplace. And I think that this process takes about 5 years to develop. So I'd be bullish of gold and gold stocks. I told you previously about what I was expecting out of Newmont, and it looks like I've been frozen out of the trade, which sucks horse, you know what. I don't know. I look at that, and I hate to say it, but that actually looks like it's a buy today, which of course makes you sick to your stomach because I hate chasing up markets. But cup and handle is cup and handle is cup and handle. And if this is actually a megaphone, that means we're probably heading up here, right? And we all know how to draw the target for the megaphone, right? So I don't need to draw it for you. You already know. Anyway, it is the bottom of the cup to the lip, and then project that same distance off of the lip. So this American barrack here, it's telling you, and I don't know when the hell this happens, but maybe it's something like that, which would be early September. And actually, that makes perfect sense because that's exactly when we're expecting Bitcoin to do its insane move up. And that's exactly when we're expecting the US dollar to bottom into the US fiscal year end. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Now, the one saving grace about this is I do have a shit ton of this guy on the books. I've told you how much I absolutely love this stock. 32 ounce, 32 grams per ton in their sampling. And they say historically, you need to have 3 grams per ton to justify a mine. 32 grams, does that meet the 3 grams number? I think so. So this will probably be my primary proxy for the gold market going forward. I really wanted to get in on that Newmont trade, but got totally frozen out of it. Such a piss off. Looking at some of the TRI positions that we have on the books, Alibaba is just looking like a piece of shit. And frankly speaking, I heard that Chris was like, "Holy shit! Did you hear about the Chinese debt situation?" And I do think that that's actually the kind of crisis that happens this fall. I don't think it's a crisis in the United States, but I definitely think, countries like China, countries like China, countries like Russia, countries like Australia, countries like South Africa, all of these countries, that's the ticking time bomb in our society now, globally. And when they go, that's actually going to be the crash, if there's going to be a crash. So, the really good lesson in why you should establish risk-free trades. This trade looks like it's doing absolutely nothing. It's the risk-free portion of it. We already booked 20, 30%. So I couldn't even really care if this goes off the board. Really good illustration of how this plays out. My Intel sitting right at that trendline confluence. Fascinating level. If this thing is for real, it should hold this. If we actually start structurally breaking down here, my Intel trade could be in trouble. Good thing, we've got a risk-free trade here. Sold 2/3 at twice our purchase price. So we booked a 20-30% return on our money, and it's just a free car. Let's see what happens. Two trades that we have risk on right now. And actually, I like what I'm seeing here. It might be worthwhile us going and taking a look at crypto stocks, although I've talked so much here today, we're running out of time. This Beyond looks like it's heading in the right direction. That's what I want to see. And I think I told you that I had a buy signal there on Bitcoin yesterday. So if anything, I like that. That looks like it's working. It will take, because I bought some pretty deeply out of the money strikes on this spread, though. And so admittedly, it is going to take a serious push up top here for us to get those the double off on this option. But I'm not losing any money on the option right now, the spread. I think it's sitting just slightly in profit, but I want my double. And it will require this thing to pop. But, if Bitcoin takes off here, then I think I can see that happening. And of course, over the next 3 or 4 months, that's exactly what we're expecting to happen. And then lastly, my little defensive stock, the Moderna, it's got a W working. It's got the double bottom working. If the stock market's happy, though, my hunch here is this thing probably has to calm back down. January position, this is the only one that I'm actually taking any heat on. The spread itself is down about 30-40% from where I bought it. I'm humming and hawing about whether I just blow this out at a 50% loss. That's usually the rule of thumb in options is if you see a 50% loss, you just take the loss and walk away. So I am humming and on about that, but nonetheless, it's a pretty bottom, and I love being long this position. If I was just buying the stock outright, I would not have a problem going in and buying that stock and just throwing it in my registered account and forgetting about it. This is like $20 a share, and this is like 100 and what? $160, $170 a share. So 50% rolls, we should just by nature expect this thing to rally back to 60, $70, no problem. So the only question here is, does the option spread run out of time? It's a January position, so certainly not in any hurry whatsoever. Anyway, that's a review of TRI's spreads that we have on in the books over there in Interactive. I don't know if there's anything else here that I want to comment on. I see Christopher Lochner has arm up. Is that arms up? You've got a question? Is that what that is? I'm not quite sure. A little disappointed in my Toyota Motor Company. I'm not quite sure why that stalled out, but Joby and flying taxi cabs, that still seems to be all the rage. I don't see anything here new. If anything, if you're in this NeuroSense with me, I'm long this through the warrants. Keep an eye on this. If this thing actually goes and M's out here, then I think I'll walk away from the warrant. It expires, I think, in January of next year. So be cognizant of the fact that if this thing goes and M's out, this thing might just go right back in the shitter, kind of like this here. But other than that, I don't really see anything to get too excited about. But I am kind of pleased to see that Joby keeps pushing higher. That's kind of cool. Paramount, I've wanted to buy this damn stock, and I'm actually a little pissed off at myself for not getting in. You can see the double bottom breakout level there is basically what, 11, almost $12. So sitting at 12.65, I might just go in and pick some of this up if it does pull back into that $12 number. We'll see how it goes. Interesting that it's time, I think, for me to start stepping up and taking a real good look at shorting these Chinese banks again. Reload zone, gap right at my favorite fib, and of course, look at that crazy ass price appreciation. Their guy, of course, won the election. Election was totally rigged, in my opinion. And so what a surprise. All the banks are super happy, but it doesn't change the fundamental situation in China. And I still think that these banks are in big trouble. It's just, it's not today. And if anything, January barometer, everybody's got their attention on Taco. They're not really paying attention to China right now. If anything, I love the idea. If this thing can just get bid up another, let's call it $5, $10, I think I'm definitely going to go be shopping some sort of short proxy there. So, Casey and Megan, if you want to try and play in this space with me, it might be fun to snicker at these cocksuckers when this thing breaks apart down the road. Anyway, I doubt, just simply because of what I teach all of you, this is, in my opinion, actually setting up a really, really good trade location. So I'll be watching for divergence, then price structure, and then I want to hit this fucking thing hard. Okay, so that's basically the stocks. Now I did have a screen with the crypto stocks on it. Is this one? No, these are spreads that I was interested in. There's that damn Newmont. Look at that, eh? Fucker. Allen stocks. Actually, this is where Big House was talking yesterday. I actually posted on Twitter. I tried for fun going, all right, I see a bearish setup here. I think you go short at 300 and your target should be like $100. If you want to see the chart, like this tweet and stuff like that. And I think I got like 4 responses. So I don't know whether that is of any value. I don't know. I'm getting kind of sick of Twitter. And as I think I said in the video yesterday, I found an alternative to Twitter and I'm starting to slowly populate that, but I don't want to make it public. I want to get it all nice and crisp and looking nice and into a nice rhythm and figure out how the platform works and all that. And then I'll start transitioning out of Alan Shithead's little thing. Anyway, enough of that. And actually, I was supposed to have had it done by December of last year, but I was too fucking lazy. Anyway, so bot setups potentially happening. I think so. It's interesting if we just get rid of all this gobbledygook. What I noticed here is, and how much time do we have? Maybe another 10, 20 minutes. All right, so bottom end of the range. Where are we? I think that's the bottom there. Top end of the range. So we'll clone that. Then we'll come down here. Put that right there. And then bot that up. Boosh. And of course, always backwards. So interesting level. So one lower high, 2 lower highs. Can I get some sort of lower high here? 3rd lower high? I would like to see that, please. I definitely can understand if somebody just said, fuck it. I'm just going to hop on the short side at $300. I find that interesting coincidence. Let's just make sure this number is correct. Oh, I'm slightly off. 367.71 and 361.78. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get that on there correctly. There we go. All right. Boom. All right. And boom. So there are some levels for you to chew on. I would say the knee-jerk level that I would look for here. Interesting too. We might even just walk along this trend line to get there, but that's this symmetrical AB equals CD, right? So there to there, wherever the hell that low is, I think it's there. A to B, C to D. So if you're relatively new to this, hopefully you can understand this. And something like that. Boosh. And we go A, B, C, D objective. You've probably seen me do that before. Something along those lines. You can see this is not exact, but it's pretty close. And I actually even tweeted this out yesterday. So what a surprise. This is $300. Boom. 299.83. Target is 96, which is interesting because really all this is just a wash of these lows. What a surprise. And then we went after the stops, right? Bullshit. So that's what I'd be thinking right now on Allen. Now, the interesting thing about this is, of course, you see the M here. It hasn't confirmed yet, so I don't know whether we've actually broken down yet. I think you might even argue that for the time being, if we go there to there, that's market structure. I think that's support. And then we can go either off the top, or we could do this. This is a potential, so this isn't actually confirmed yet. Oops. There to there. So I think that's your trading range right now. And I could very easily see that they just sort of waffle this in between here. I could very easily see that. So I don't know whether I necessarily agree with the Bears who are outright calling for this collapse. I don't think I quite see it here yet. And if anything, with all of this fuckery here, I wouldn't be surprised if Allen here is setting some sort of trap for you. So be careful here, folks. I definitely think the level's there, but if you're going to short, you got to risk all the way up to here. So I don't know whether you want to take that kind of risk. You can see, like, if we drill down to like a 4-hour chart, or even, well, like I said, say 30 minutes. I mean, you can see this is all messy, messy, messy. This entire gap should be filled in. And what I'm worried about is they gapped it lower, of course, get all the noobs all thinking short. They, of course, run out anybody who did get long. And probably people even put their, oh, I'm going to put my stop just above below here. It'll never come back down here. And boom, they just ran them out. And now what the fuck are they doing? Does that not look like a W that's trying to form? Looks like it to me. So I don't think it's a good idea just to blatantly short this. I think you're asking for trouble. And if anything, everything that we teach you in the education program, probably best just to hunt reload zones. Where is the reload short zone? There it is. 61.8 is the top of value. Notice 78.6 will bring us back up into that trend line. And that actually is the original M top up here, right? You could say, market structure wise, I should be short from that level right there. So a counter trend rally back up into there, especially on earnings, if there's half decent number. That's actually where I think this thing is a short. I don't know whether I really like the idea of shorting down here. So hopefully that helps you. 6 1, half dozen the other. In fact, you might even argue off of this high here, back down against these lows. Oh, what a surprise. Brian's favorite fib. That's actually a buy setup level. Ay, caramba. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. If I wanted to short, think red boxes. If I wanted to buy, think green boxes. And right now we are playing in a green box. So you be careful, all you awesome traders. Let's put this over here. Douche. Brian Beamish, whatever that speech was, it clearly didn't have the desired effect. Oh yeah. Yeah, there was some sort of reference earlier. Oh, what's Cotter saying? If you're annoyed by the new context menu in TradingView when you left click the mouse, here's how to fix it. Oh, cool. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll fix that later. 1 + 1 = 3. 1075. Oh boy, posting a whole bunch of rants from Taco. All right. Well, I hope you get some value out of all that. I would be very, very careful about getting too bearish right here on mini tacos. All right. I don't think there's anything else here in the stock market I wanted to look at. What I did notice is, Jesus, look at this goddamn Dollar Tree. Remember I had pointed that out like a month or two ago? Look at that freaking move straight up. Ugh. Still don't think you should be going and buying a ton of silver here, though. Red boxes. Be careful there, folks. Interesting how the PayPal Mafia. And man, I've seen all these guys. They are the freakiest looking dudes ever. Like that Peter Thiel guy. And the way that he talks about fucking Terminator shit and all that kind of stuff. God, these people make me sick to my stomach. Anyway, there are our new overlords. Anyway, interesting to see Meta. Meta's looking a little nosebleedy there. I don't know whether it's a good idea to go and chase that. A lot of these names are looking really nosebleedy. I was talking to you about a week or so ago about how that was like an outside mouse downside key reversal on like the weekly charts or something, wasn't it? No, I guess it wasn't weekly. I thought I remember I saw a key reversal up here. Oh well. Anyway, considering these companies are making so much money as they are, if you're going to short them, they better look freaking pristine as hell. The setups. Anyway, okay, so all those guys we talked about that. I thought I had a screen of crypto stocks on here because it is interesting to see the way that my Beyond is acting here. Probably the crypto stocks are feeling pretty good about life now. I have it on here somewhere. I thought I did. Maybe it's this one. Too many tabs. Anyway, what time is it? 11 o'clock. Got to wind this up here pretty soon. Oh, interesting. Riot gap lower. Yeah, that's going the wrong way. There's Beyond slowly trying to churn its way higher. Coinbase, nothing to get excited about there. Circle, looks like it's not a hell of a lot to get excited about there. It's an up day, so I suppose that's good. Ooh, and look at Novogratz. Novogratz got punched in the nose here today. Be interesting to see if Novogratz can go and W out here. I think it should, but anyway, we'll see. And then whoever's idea this was, this Starlink Gaming, gotta say that was interesting looking chart though. Wow, that's a mess. They split this. They rolled this stock back here, maybe. I don't know. Nothing really, especially with this really weird price action. I don't think I could even look at something like that. That is bizarre. I don't remember even mentioning that before. Anyway, Riot, I guess, was our proxy. I don't really see anything there. So, okay, enough of that. Let's head on over to crypto. We'll do 5-10 minutes there. Hopefully, I don't run out of time. Bitcoin. Nothing's changed in this picture. The only reason why I have it this big is so you can see the seasons. We're basically right in the middle of the summer. Should I expect the fall in the summer? No, I should expect the summer in the summer. So interesting how we did have this bot set up coming out of the election. Move stop to scratch. Interesting. So if we do actually pull back to this bot entry level, then it's busted. But look how we did that. We came right down here, came close, but didn't hit it. So I think the bull's still very much in charge here. Could be a cute little bot that's setting up here now. And I think there's even a little itty bitty bot that's setting up right here. But if we go down to the daily chart, that's the weekly. So there is that bigger bot that I was mentioning a second ago. Daily chart. I don't think I have it off of this one. Yeah, here it is here. So we're now drilled down to like a 30-minute chart. So this is total day trader stuff. We're definitely not off those higher time frame charts anymore. In fact, probably we should look at the 4-hour here just to put it into context. I think that we've got a massive inverted head and shoulders here that's trying to work. As long as this low holds in, I don't see any reason to change that thinking. If you do see this low is taken out, then it means, oh boy, market's starting to smile at us and we better be careful. Probably also too, that'll come in on a trend line break. There, yeah, you can see. So they're breaking the trend line now. If we actually put in bearish structure over here, I think the bull's in trouble. We'll see. I don't see it just yet, but we'll see. Off the lower time frame chart, I actually thought that this was a cute consolidation that set up, a leg higher. So that was the 30-minute chart that I did this up on. So we had a push up. I remember us talking about diamonds. I remember us talking about 33% to 50%. I have made reference to Collins pump chaser zone. Somebody asked me to explain Collins pump chaser zone and how you use it. And I said, well, it's really his concept. And so then they said, why the fuck are you saying it then? Leave it to Colin, I guess. Okay, fine. So we won't make reference to Collins pump chaser zone anymore. What I would say for the bot is we want to see at least 33%, but no more than 66. So we consolidated down, did not breach that 66. We traded at 2.618. And if I'm not mistaken, there was another thing in here. I can't remember what it was. That sort of suggested that maybe we find some support in here, which we did. Consolidated all basically through the weekend, started to move up in earnest. And interestingly enough, somebody even on the site was like, oh boy, weekend's over. Now they're going to shit on Bitcoin again. And that call was right. I have to say, like literally as soon as London opened, right, there's London open right there. They were in a selling mood and it's just been one directional the whole morning here. Hasn't broken down yet per se. Underwater though, so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Not really too overly excited about this. One low, two lows, three lows. I have to risk all the way. Uh-oh, two sneezes. That's not good. Anyway, I have to risk to all the way down to here on this trade, so I might be looking like a little silly, but live by the sword, die by the sword. That's the way this game goes. Anyway, so I suppose since that is an M top, we could probably do chaos. Oh, interesting. Do chaos off of that range. So a chaos off of that. It'd be interesting to see. I get the funny feeling that we're probably at Julian's 1.618 right now. Where are we here? Chaos. Boosh. Oh, what a surprise. I guess that really shouldn't surprise any of us. You can use this information to help you make better trade ideas, trade location. Suppose you could argue if I had just done nothing more than said, well, what's a reload zone of that range? 88.6 and 1.618. That's got Julian written all over it. Do you get stopped out on this little move down here? I don't know whether it took that low out or not. That low was 107.817. 107.811. Boo, hiss, boo. I don't know whether you get stopped out of there or not. My stop, like I said, is all the way down here. I have to have three higher lows. That's why I have the three higher lows. That's why I'm chicken shit. So we'll see. My hunch here is that they're probably going to play around with this trend line here for the next little while. Really, I wouldn't even be surprised if, the universe is a fractal. We're probably going to do the same size over here. So this thing might not do anything for like the next couple days. That's my hunch of what's going to happen. And then if this thing is shit and it wants to break down, then it loses this trend line and down we go. So live by the sword, die by the sword. I suppose we should probably have stops working. Make sure that that's down there. If this low is breached, well, you just got to walk away. So that's the corn. Was feeling actually pretty uppy here earlier this morning, but not looking so uppy now, I suppose, along with the stock market. Total market. I always like this one. Ironically enough, I had mapped out this trading range way back here. What is that? That's December of last year. And all we've done is just basically sat in this trading range the entire time. I might argue that if we can get some sort of consolidation here and actually resolve higher, this will probably create like a B, C, D kind of scenario. And I suppose that's where my bot levels are all projecting to, breaking out higher. I've said to you guys in the past, and I still believe this, that half of the reason why the altcoin market can't really outperform here is because short-term interest rates are really just way, way too high. Nobody's going to go and borrow money on the short end and then go invest in crypto, since crypto, of course, is 100% vent cap, unless they can borrow that money at no cost. And sadly, of course, they can't borrow the money at no cost. It actually costs quite a bit of money, thanks to JP. And interestingly enough, if Trump has his way and Basant's Treasury Secretary, and they just basically take short-term interest rates to zero, well, what a surprise. That next cycle, you'll probably see altcoins do relatively well. So kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, still think that we are stuck in this trading range, bottom end of the range, top end of the range. Can we break out? And ideally, what you really want to see is a breakout, then a bullish consolidation, and then we go. You'd love to see that. Can we get that? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Is there anything to do right now? No, nothing. It's just hurry up and wait. I saw you post about Allen. You saw a lot of Beamish in that chart. What does that mean? Well, who can help PM here? What is the trade setup that I teach you in the level 1 course that you've never, ever seen anybody in the rest of the universe talk about? Ryan, every day is a great day with you. Have a great rest of your day. You too, Chris, and TRI community. All right. Thanks, Jim and Liz. That's awfully sweet of you. So who can help PM? What is the one setup that you will learn from the Beamish that you probably never see anybody else ever talk about? And hint, 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 it's got that, it's all over Allen right now. Can anybody help PM? Where's that silly mafia? MS? I don't know what the heck that means. Nobody can help him? All right. The bot. The bot is basically Brian Beamish 101. You don't hear, I can guarantee you, you do not hear about anybody on the internet talking about bot setups. Guarantee you. So that's what I meant, that this has Brian Beamish written all over it. So hopefully that helps you, PM. Yeah, because I act like an institutional player. I don't act like the retail public. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question. So finish off the video here. It's not really a hell of a lot else to do. And sadly, actually, you could technically make the argument that we are in a short trade location. Again, this is Brian Beamish 101. You don't hear anybody else on the internet talking about reload zones. That's Brian Beamish 101. So if I put this chart out, I would say this has Brian written all over it. All right. So point of the matter here, I know all of you want to get rich in altcoins and shitcoins and stuff like that, but there's not really anything to do here right now. You just got to sit and wait. And there's no guarantees that this is going to break up. I think it does, but that's just my opinion. Why? Well, because of these cycles. And lastly, and I think this is probably the best thing to finish off on, is I don't think that this market gets going until this piece of shit gets going. I think it's getting closer and closer and closer day by day by day. We are getting closer. We have trade location now. We have indicator confirmation. If I get two W's in a row on RSI, what am I supposed to do? Can anybody help me? If I get two W's in a row on RSI, what am I supposed to do? After having trade location, indicator confirmation, MACD divs, Willie stupid. If I get two W's in a row on RSI, what must I do? Well, okay, that's a cop out answer. You are right, technically. Just one word starts with a B. It's pretty simple. If I get two W's in a row, yeah. Thank you, Richard. Finally, somebody. I mean, if I get two W's in a row here, this thing's gonna fucking rocket, and I should be a buyer. Thank you, PM. Again, that would be Brian Beamish written all over this. Do you hear anybody else on the internet say, check out this RSI? When it puts two W's in a row, fuck me, that's a signal. And if you ever see two W's in a row through the 50 line, holy moly. Or M's, look how we had two M's in a row here, right in here. This M, boom, 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 and this M through the 50 line. And look what they did to Donnie. They just ripped his fucking asshole right off of his body. Well, that'd be an interesting image. So anyway, that's what I mean when I say this has got Brian Beamish written all over it. Shitcoins, generally speaking, I think on balance, I like the idea of buying into these lows. I mean, really, if I liked Donnie and I thought that this was a reputable guy and had a good reputation as being honest and straightforward and moral and an outstanding citizen, he really liked to try and help make a positive difference in this world, I'd be all fucking over this. Nanny nibbling. We don't have the actual trade set up yet. I still don't see any W's yet. But I would definitely be nanny nibbling that all day fucking long. And I've told you, and it's the exact same message I said yesterday, all of these greens, these are all names that I've slowly just nibble, 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 nibble. And of course, that's including, and I have a feeling I'm going to be famously teased about this one. I nibbled on this one, even though people told me that this project is basically dead. Way to go, Brian. Yeah, live by the sword, die by the sword. You'll see how I do. The only measure, well, no. I mean, my plan here is to buy against the bottom end ranges, very, very low risks. And of course, when relative to the size of the account and when, if and when they double, sell halves, establish risk-free trades. That's the plan. So I'm following the plan. But at the same time, too, I can absolutely fully respect once you understand how to participate in the market, that you look at me and say, Brian, this wasn't a rational idea. You're an idiot. And I'll go, yeah, sometimes I am, but this is the plan. So I'm just following the plan. Let's see what happens. And if it goes off the board, so fucking what. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. And, every day I mention the same thing. Take full ownership of the fact that this is probably a really stupid idea. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Don't take too big of risks. Even little old ladies, as long as they don't break that 5% rule, they can even sprinkle in some pieces of garbage in their portfolio and it really doesn't kill them. It's not going to make life easier, but it doesn't kill them. Anyway. I don't know. There's not, I mean, is there any name in particular you guys want to look at? And as soon as Chris gives me the we're about to die, I'll say goodbye here. So I'll just scroll through the chat here and just see if you guys asked me to look at anything in particular. I did look at that Tesla, and I gave you my two thoughts there. Oh, okay. Oh, somebody wants me to look at CVC. Let's see what you got there. And is that because we're done recording? Or they're being polite to you, you know? All right. That's probably not in these people's best interest. Oh, nice chart. I could be here for another 2 or 3 hours. So I don't know. Just kidding. Art. That's a pretty good idea. I like that. And really, DDBB, it doesn't surprise me. I think you'll do perfectly well. What you need to appreciate, this is just between me, you, and the fence post, is every once in a while, markets have to, here is that last summer bull into the election. Every once in a while, markets just have to take 6 months off. And I think that's exactly what happened here. Clean up, bring everything right back down to the bottom. And here they go again. So, yeah, actually, I think that's an excellent idea, DDBB. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Good looking indicators. You even have a nice little div here in MACD as it was heading down here. Huge div here. Nice bottom in volume. Buyers are actually trying to step back in. That's always a good sign. Hasn't quite started to outperform. You would like to see, it doesn't matter whether it's a crypto or a stock or anything. You would like to see the market outperforming the S&Ps. So right now it's still underperforming. Willie got stupid, always a good sign. And actually here is a good example of two W's in RSI. You can see the first W. So this W right here, when it came in right on this event right here, that was the first W, which stops the bear. Then the second W that comes in, and believe it or not, I actually think it's right through here. This actually starts the bull. Looks like they had to do a little bit of washing here. I actually like this W here because this low is slightly lower than that low. And you have a nice solid candle body low. So down, up, down, breakout. So you can even see today it is actually trying to break out here. And of course, you've got the two W's in a row here on RSI. I don't really like it when it makes a third W though, because that usually is the exhaustion W. And maybe that makes sense that it tried to jump up into these highs. And there were just so many trap bulls in this wick up here that they all said, get me the fuck out of here now, get me out, get me out. Having said that, I have no problem whatsoever. Somebody coming in and saying, hey, Brian, I've heard good things about this story. I like the fundamentals. I like the people that are involved. Is this an okay place to go in there and start thinking about acquiring this thing? I'd be like, yeah, I'm right there with you. Totally, perfectly fine being long this name. So, yeah, perfectly good idea. I hope that helps you, DDBB. And if anything, you just go slowly. You're still in the learning phase. And what we just went through over that last 6 months, actually, that's pretty normal. But every once in a while, this got to happen. And of course, the ultra insane part of the venture cap market, it like literally goes right back to zero because it's all garbage. At least this thing has some fundamental value. They would ideally like to, have it part of the sort of city hall kind of framework. I can't remember exactly how the fundamental story goes, but I do think it actually has some fundamental worth. But like half of the shit that we buy, Costco hot dogs and stuff like this stuff is completely and utterly worthless. So if anything, it was probably a really good lesson for you to understand what happens to absolute garbage when you go through these correction windows. And you can even see I'm in here looking like an idiot. And if we get any kind of counter trend rally in the fall, I'll hop out of there. All right. Somebody else asked me to look at CANBTBT and Link. All right, see if we can do this relatively quickly. Link, we should be able to knock that one out pretty quickly. Link. I think I got some of this on the books, so I don't have a problem being long this name. I think this study's probably over now. If we go reload zones, are we into a reload zone? Wow, you know how much Brian loves his 78.6s. And also interesting too, this is a Wyckoff check. This is basically a check of this original breakout. I would say that this thing is a new bull when we start Wing out on the other side of this trend line. Oh, so close. Roughly. You get the idea, I think. Oh God, this is so frustrating to use sometimes. Big sigh. Of course, the drawing tool is right exactly where I need it. All right, there, and then there. All right, wow, look at that, eh? So let's just get some sort of W to actually confirm on the other side of this trend line. And I think you're good to go. What a beautiful analogy about W's on other sides of trend lines, eh? So, and I don't even know whether we put in one yet. I guess you could say there to there to there. So if you're willing to risk to a break of these lows, maybe trade that W. See how it goes. I'm not going to say this is for the faint of heart, because if we do lose this level, it's a long way down to that trend line and that previous low, right? If we puke out through here, my hunch is support is like there. And ideally, think grade 3 English teacher. What I really want to see is I want to see a nice clean W like that. So this is like bull flaggy, and this would be probably a bot if we drill down to like a lower time frame. I don't even know whether the bots though it's had enough time to set up. I think you got to go here, believe it or not. I think the bot's still trying to set up. So there, yeah. So there's 33. But when we were here, there's 33. Okay. But lower low, we did hit 33, so that's fine. Lower low, that sucks. All right, then we'll go up here. So now you have to measure off of here. Did hit 33, but only one low. All right, well, now we're gonna have to go here. All right, we did hit 33. We've got one low, two lows. So now, if we start getting a serious test of these lows and they hold and we turn back up, you might have something. And we'll go off of there, and then we'll go there. And of course, always backwards. We'll go there. And oh, what a coincidence. It's absolutely remarkable how that always seems to happen. So clearly you can see there are other people in the marketplace that see the same level, and a resolution through that level, I think, is your signal that we're off to the races. I don't like the fact that this trend line here is still up here, which kind of leads me to believe we're going to have to break out and then come back. And ideally, I'd like to see something like that. So let's see how this develops. Would like to see W's on other sides of trend lines, but you can clearly see If you just had the balls and said, look at, I'm gonna buy on a break of this level here, and I'm gonna risk against these lows. If this low holds, well, that's your W that you're working with, right? And there should be 3 higher lows. I wouldn't fault you if you said, you know what, those are some pretty good levels. I'll work this. I want to get long this guy. But what I would say for the noobs and people who are high anxiety and still a little bit stressed out, maybe let this develop a little bit more and see if we can get some sort of W on the other side of that trend line. All right. CAN, what the hell is that? And that's a stock. Canan, is that what you're talking about? Ooh, pretty. Chart looks nice. Problem with stocks is what's the fundamental story? There's a bazillion gazillion shares out, or if there's even like no shares out, that can get a little dangerous to be for the technician. Looks to me like that's a potential trend line there. So this would be a good one. I think I want to mention. Oh, this is a 4-hour. We should go back to the. All right, daily's not too much different. All right, so you can clearly see. I'd even go 1, 2 like that. So 1, 2, 3. That's good. And we're breaking that trend line. That's good. So a nice little W here. I think you got something. Price objective should be 50% level. So that is there. And really probably fill in these gaps. Seems logical. So really, I would say if this W can form here and confirm, I think there's actually a half decent trade there. All right, take it easy, Meg. I really wouldn't even have a problem if you just said, look at, because this is such a big number. So look at, you know what, I'm gonna take my shot here, but I'll risk against this low. This W will have already confirmed, so that's fine. And I'm gonna take profits at 50% level, and that's a 4-to-1 risk reward. Nothing wrong with that at all. Down here, indicators, huge divergence, massive divergence. A bit of an odd breakdown here, though, in MACD. A little bit of a bear div in MACD there. So you'd really like to see this confirm and break out. Also, too, a breakdown in volume. So that's a little suspicious. Nothing really. Again, remember I said earlier, you'd really like to see the market outperforming the S&Ps. That's with this moving average. So maybe this needs a little bit more time to consolidate, put in a W versus the ES, and then break out. Little Davo signals, W, W, W. So that's not bad. Nice little momentum signal there. And that's right off these lows. So again, I don't really have a problem if you are interested in this name. How you're going to skin the cat, that's going to be entirely up to you as an individual trader. But I think you definitely have trade location down. And really, I don't mind. I like the divergence here. I don't like the fact that we actually made bear divs on this move here. That's a bit suspicious. So maybe let this form up a little bit, but the little Davo signal, that W, that W, that W, that was this move here. Down, up, down, breakout. So if you were a real sharpshooter and you actually got in off of that little double bottom, you'd look like a genius and your risk would be really, really low. I think you could also make the argument this is a Joby gap. So we gapped higher, moved through that high as a buy signal. So that's there. And Joby gap distance is basically a replication of that range, which is what I think just happened there. It just popped up into this top of this wick and also that gap. So I don't know. You're probably a little late to come to the party right now. But as I said earlier, there is this wider W that's there. So if this thing closed up in there, and better yet, if we could get some sort of structure over here and you get like double bottoms and like a triple, quadruple bottom, oh my goodness, that would be awesome. I suppose for fun, and this was the crypto chart, right? So suppose we can just go take a quick boo at the fundamentals. Not there. Where is the fundamental sheet? I think I have it over here. Yeah. Woo-wee, look at that trade. There's a great analogy of why you really want to let your winners run, eh? Look at that. Holy moly. So just as we've been chit-chatting away here, just no opinion. Oh, look at it, did it again. But I'm going to do what Cotter told me after. So thank you, Cotter. No opinion. Get yourself that risk-free trade. Get your stop at scratch. And who knows what the fuck's going to happen. Isn't that incredible? This is just like on a micro. Positions up 200 bucks. Fuck, if that was a big boy, I'd be up like 2 or 3 grand. And Hogue would be reaching through the computer screen kissing me. Anyway, but what a great analogy of just set it and forget it. Just leave it alone. Come back a couple hours from now, and who knows what the, and actually it'll be interesting challenge for Brian. I'm going to try and close this 10 minutes into the close, or I get stopped out at scratch. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see what happens. All right, back to that can. Are you guys enjoying this? Is anybody getting any value out of all this? Hope so. All right, Candy. Thanks. Everybody's bailing. All right. Anyway, nice chart. That's a pretty chart. 288 million out. You lost me. That's too bad. If this had like 20, 30 million out, I'd be like, fucking buy this right now. Pretty big earnings numbers here. Look at that. 90% earnings growth this year, 440% earnings growth next year. Year over year, 50% earnings per share growth, sales growth. So this is why the stock is not performing right now, is quarter over quarter. They had a pretty negative earnings number. When's the next earnings day for this guy? That can't be right. That must be the last one. I don't know where the next earnings date is. Be interesting to figure that out, because I think that will be the catalyst. If those earnings numbers come out well, and they start actually expressing this, I think you'll see the stock take off. So keep your eyes peeled for that quarter over quarter earnings number. And if it's greater than 25, 30%, then that means this thing actually starts to be a canceling stock. Trading below book value, always like that. Look at that low PE ratio. That's crazy. The enterprise value is less than the market cap of the stock. That's definitely got to mean something. 34 cents of cash on the books. So you can see EPS next quarter, they're actually expecting them to lose money still, but they should be able to weather that. And interesting how, book value per share. Interesting how they're not carrying any debt. Well, not much debt. They do have a little bit of debt, but not terrible numbers, not terrible numbers. And you are coming in down at the bottom end of the range. So of course I always like that. Look at the target price on the stock, 283. So that's like what, 4x where we are right now? I think there's some money to be made on this thing. So whoever asked about this, you're heading in a good direction. Yeah, obviously there's no guarantees in any of this. Interesting. Can is a BTC mining machine maker. Well, there you go. That makes sense then. I think for the next, 4 or 5 months, probably 6 months, because I don't think Bitcoin price is going to collapse anytime soon. How high it actually goes, well, that's the $64,000 question. So I actually do like this idea that these guys should have the wind at their back for the next 3 or 4 months. So at least, maybe even the next 6 months. And then, of course, if Bitcoin price is really high and these guys make miners, everybody and their fucking brother is going to be going into the Bitcoin mining business, right? Which means they'll be selling tons of stuff. So that makes sense. I like that. Singapore, not a bad location. Just as long as this word doesn't say China, then I'm fine with that. Singapore, that's okay. Just stay the fuck away from China. That place, I've been in this business 40 plus years and nothing has ever changed with that shit show. And I'm so angry that people actually came on and actually got vehement with me. Oh no, this time it's different. You don't know what you're talking about, Brian. You suck, horse cocks. It's half the reason why I'm kind of giving up on this endeavor, to be honest with you. So anyway, not a bad idea. And I definitely think you're heading in a good direction. The only thing I don't like is I would prefer that this be like 20 to 30 million versus 200 to 300 million. And it's probably, if anything, what you got to worry about, maybe this stock actually could be subject to a rollback because they've got to maintain that dollar listing level on NASDAQ or they'll get kicked off the exchange. So either they ramp the stock up or you mysteriously find they roll it back 10 for 1 and the stock $6.80. And then it is back to that 20, 30 million share out number. So that's the only sort of cautionary note that I would make about this is the stock is too low. No, China. Jim and Liz are still here. I thought you guys took off. But anyway, good to see that you're still here. I would just do yourself a favor and stay the fuck away from China. Jim and Liz, especially you two. Right? You guys got no business playing over there. You're just going to get fucking hurt by those cocksuckers. Okay. What do you think? And actually good that we finished off on a crypto mining stock. Seems appropriate. All right, why don't we leave it at that? Sure hope you got some good value out of today. I always love chatting with you guys. You're a very receptive audience. I love talking markets. I hope you guys can see that and feel it. I genuinely want to try and help. Having said all that, Connor's like, I think you could probably buy better miners. And slow and steady wins the race, right? We're all here to try and help each other. That's really my ultimate number one goal out of this. And theoretically, if I'm half as good as what I think I am as a trader, I don't need to make money off of things like you subscribing to sites and stuff like that. That's if anything, that's chump change. And the people that do make a profit off of people on site memberships and videos and stuff like that, they're clearly demonstrating that they don't know how to trade. And that's actually the business, right? And you're not the audience, you're actually the product, right? Which I really dislike in this world. So all right. Big House is off to Costco to buy a hot dog. All right, have fun, dude. All right. Okay, everybody, have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. Hope you feel like Brian is trying to make a positive difference in your world. That's exactly what this is all about. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. Hugs and kisses. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm only a DM away. All the best and bye for now.